for logging in. Established quorum. Mr. Vogel, could you help?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Ms. Basham. Ms. Basham. Senator Champion. Senator Champion. Ms. Dawson.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Esme.
Present.
Ms. Evans. Ms. Evans. Mr. Geffen.
Present.
Mr. Hanson.
Present.
Ms. Huntley.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. Mr. Irvin. Mr. Irvin. Ms. Kaser.
Present.
Mr. Kammer. Mr. Kammer. Lieutenant Knotts.
Present.
Thank you. Judge Kulik.
Present.
Senator Matthews. Senator Matthews. Ms. Mattson.
Present.
Representative Mueller. Representative Mueller. Inspector General Modi.
Present.
Mr. Page.
Present.
Ms. Robertus. Ms. Robertus. Representative Robbins. Representative Robbins. Mr. Sandoval. Mr. Sandoval. Judge Satterbeck. Judge Satterbeck. Ms. Sherlock.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum. Mr. Tatum. Ms. Williamson. Ms. Williamson. Mr. Chair, we have 12 members present. We're one shy of quorum, but I'll let you know if somebody else comes in, and I'll mark them as present at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. I think we should then move forward, I think, with a somewhat of an informal discussion. We had before the large task force, the two recommendations, both from remedies, one from the disqualification subcommittee. We need to start putting pen to paper to satisfy some of our requirements and legislative mandates. The goal was to have the rough draft of the full report due by or provided to the full group on the 2nd of December. Obviously, with Thanksgiving and life, that's going to come up fast. At last meeting, we had discussions of both of those recommendations, and there were some individuals that were hoping to have some more time to meet with their organizations and come back with any input or any thoughts, proposed changes, etc. And I want to open it up, and I don't remember, I feel like I always pick on Mr. Page, but I don't remember, Mr. Page, if that was something you were able to do during that period, or if there are others who have things to report back. I'd like to open it up to that discussion.
Mr. Chair, I did send the what we have so far, the documents that have been generated to the executive director of the Minnesota County Attorneys Association. They have not met as a board since receiving those documents, so I don't have any feedback from them. Their next meeting is not until December 8th or so, so I won't have feedback from them, at least likely before that time.
In terms of your role in this, are you able to provide a vote, a recommendation, or thoughts that are separate from that, or how do you propose to proceed?
Mr. Chair, the letter that I received from Speaker Hortman appointing me to this body indicated that I represent county attorneys and law enforcement, I believe, which I will acknowledge I have no background in law enforcement, and really my only experiences with county attorneys, particularly on the child protection side. I will be able to offer a vote best that I can based on that experience, but I won't not vote just because I haven't received approval from a county attorneys association board or anything like that.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your ongoing involvement and thoughtful opinions throughout the process. Is anybody else going back to speak with somebody or some organization that they feel has have a discussion we have not addressed yet?
Yes, I think this falls under the same category. Tiffany, Ms. Kaser and I were appointed to represent MAXA and I did submit via email to a representative from MAXA the recommendations on November 9th and have not heard back from MAXA about that.
Okay. Do you have an anticipated response date, or is that something we won't
I've
know?
received nothing.
Okay.
Not even anything that says got it or we'll look at it, nothing. So
Okay.
I'm not really sure what else that we need to do or we
And
can. I'm not even sure how this person fits in at the MAXA structure. I have no idea.
Is there
We got the
anything?
information from Miss Evans. At least I did. I don't know if Miss Kaser knew who these folks were, but
If there's any point that the task force could assist in that endeavor in any way, sending a letter, Mr. Vogel, it seems that we should have the authority to say, they were appointed by the legislature to participate in this on behalf of an organization, and we would appreciate them responding. We could certainly do that, but I will certainly defer to you, Ms. Sherlock and Ms. Kaser, to decide what's best moving forward. But it is an opportunity that is available, and we would certainly do it quickly.
I did let them know that we were expecting to vote on the recommendations today, and asked if they have questions or concerns that they should reach out to Ms. Kaser or myself. I haven't received anything. I don't know about you, Ms. Kaser.
No, I have not.
And sitting here today, how do you propose moving forward? Are you in a position where you can offer votes on your behalf or on behalf of the organizations you believe that you're representing?
I feel like I can vote today. We alerted them, we told them the date, gave them the information. So I feel like we need to keep moving forward, given the very short time frame we have remaining.
I appreciate that. Ms. Kaser, certainly Ms. Sherlock only speaks for herself. Like all of us, do you feel the same or do you have other thoughts?
No, I feel the same. I think we can move forward.
Well, let's talk a little bit about moving forward. We have received, since our last meeting, some additional feedback regarding recommendations from certain organizations that I think we need to kind of process a little bit before we make full decisions. What we had hoped to do today was ask for a vote to permit Mr. Vogel to start putting together the full report, which is due, and recommendations, which is going to be due and before this group on December 2nd, and try to work with other organizations that might have some differing thoughts on it to incorporate those thoughts either as part of the majority, but could even be kind of a minority report. I can't share everything yet. I just don't have the authority to do it, which puts us in a little bit of a tough spot today, especially since we don't have quorum. So I think the only thing that I can do to keep this moving is, as the chair, make a unilateral decision to authorize Mr. Vogel to use the recommendations offered by the board, offered by each subcommittee, and I'll get to Ms. Modi in just a second, and move forward with drafting. Obviously, there's going to be a significant amount of time to review it after that, but we need to get pen to paper. We need to write this. And since we don't have quorum, that's what we were going to ask authorization to do. That's what we're going to do. We're going to authorize Mr. Vogel to move forward. I know the Inspector Modi has something to weigh in on this, and I'll defer to her now. Thank you, Ms. Modi.
Thank you, Mr. Gaffin, or Chair Gaffin. No, I think that approach is is a great approach, and DHS would be in support of that. I just wanted to let everyone know that DHS is reviewing all this and looking at it. We're putting together a guidance kind of documentation where we maybe can fill in some additional information from us as being subject matter experts. And then there, I think, are a few noted ones where DHS may not necessarily agree with the recommendations, and that, just want to put that forward with that. So we are working on that. We have a lot of a review and vetting process that needs to happen within DHS, and so we're moving that as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to share to that group with the overall kind of view and position of DHS is going to be either more of a neutral position or in support of this work. We're very much appreciative of how the task force is working through this and putting this together on that. So I just kind of wanted to share that. Also, part of this is that we do background studies or a lot of the process for other agencies. So we do have to reach out to our other agency partners, including Department of Corrections and MnDOT, and coordinate with MDH and on that. So we're working through that as quickly as possible. We couldn't quite get that all finished before today. So, but we have that slated to work through that in the next 2 weeks as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to kind of just share that position.
And I hope, Ms. Muddy, that this is acceptable, but what I think one of the things we're trying to do is, knowing that information, is trying to make sure that the document that we provide is synthesized with the documents that the department's providing, so there's some uniformity and cohesiveness between the documents. And I think that's candidly why we're not voting today, is to ensure that we don't have totally separate documents doing different things and not mesh together, at least in an understanding.
No, I appreciate that. And I know our legislative director, Autumn, who's in this call, has been working with Mr. Vogel on that, and how best we can provide support or technical assistance on this, and as well as providing DHS's position. So
thank you, Inspector Modi. So that's where we are. Since we don't have quorum today, we're going to move forward and authorize Mr. Vogel to move forward and put pen to paper. We're going to be working with the Department of Human Services as they reach out to other entities that are involved in the background study to synthesize their recommendations, or their neutral opinions, I should say, into our more full report, even though they might very well be separate. That might be a little bit confusing. I want to open it up to any questions from the task force in general.
So, Mr. Chair, when would we be anticipating taking a vote based on all of that, do you think?
Mr. Vogel, my understanding would be the real vote would be December 2nd, after the language is authorized, put together, written. Is that accurate or not?
Yes, Mr. Chair. That sounds accurate, and like a good timeline. That would give us about a week and a half worth of working days to work up a text for that. Obviously, we want to try to get that to the members as quickly as possible. We have the December 2nd meeting. We've also scheduled that additional meeting on December 9th, and then finally there's the meeting on December 16th. So if you aim to have a vote on December 2nd, that would give us then those additional one working meeting and one meeting the day that the report is due to conduct any additional work necessary.
I think our goal would be to have 99% of it locked in on the 2nd, and using that last little time just for any possible tweaks and a little bit of extra room for anything that's going to go crazy. That always does.
And I know we addressed this a little bit at the end of the last meeting, and I'm not saying that I'm going to vote against the recommendations for sure, but if there was to be a minority report or some recommendations outside of what the task force recommends, those would also be due on the 16th.
Everything's due the 16th, correct, 16th. Mr. Vogel?
Correct, Mr. Chair. That's specified in the statute that enabled the task force, and the task force itself lapses on, I believe, December 20th of this year.
I would say too, at least with some of the sections, there minority reports already baked in a bit, in that this is complicated stuff and people have different opinions. And certainly with the disqualification subcommittee, there are positions in there that say that not everybody agreed on this, and here were some of the other thoughts and ideas. So even at the second, it would not be, even with the draft on the second, it will include some of the differing opinions. I think that it's just to really reflect what happened. Here's what we thought were problems. Here's what we thought were possible recommendations. And here are some situations where we couldn't reach any consensus or there was a minority opposition. Does anybody else have any questions about this kind of somewhat new path forward? Okay, Mr. Vogel, do we have any other business today then?
Lacking quorum, Mr. Chair, I don't believe so.
It seems to me the work we have to do now is right in a way that best reflects the work that everyone has put in, the opinions that people have, in a fair and respectful way to make this law better and more fair, and giving employers better opportunities to hire people they think would be successful in their businesses. With that, we're going to adjourn. We've got a lot of work to do, and I appreciate everybody's time. Apologize for the truncated meeting today. If you have other friends and colleagues that are on this board or on the task force, reach out, ask them to come. I'm going to be harassing people over the holidays. So thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Mr.
everyone.
Chair.